Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to The Voice of the Teacher. My name is Jacob Montag. I hope today finds you well, and I hope you've enjoyed following my journey this year. And as I'm nearing the end of my master's program and nearing the end of this particular chapter in both my career and my educational journey, I wanted to take a few minutes today and share with you some things that forced me to go down this path. And maybe forced is too strong of a word. Maybe it was just a door that opened up, because I do believe in divine providence and the leading of God, because I'm a Christian. I believe God led me down this path. And so I want to share a few experiences that I've had along the way that helped me have a fundamental change in my educational philosophy that took me from that strict behaviorist to someone who embraced constructivists without, just letting kids run amok in the classroom, as has been made allegations of sometimes. And so to begin with, I want to talk about my dissatisfaction with the traditional school system. So when I was a student teacher, I was a very, very hard-nosed young man. I had my suit and tie on. Hard to believe now if you look at what I'm wearing in this video. I had a suit and tie on, cufflinks, the entire 9 yards, polished glasses, smooth hair, and And then, much like that, I experienced an interruption. What was that interruption? Well, one, I graduated college, and the controlled environment that I was in at the time, and it was a controlled environment. I had a lot of people that wanted to make student teaching the most pleasant experience for me possible. And when I had that interruption, I went to a 1A school district where they passed the kids, but that's not because the kids were actually learning. It's because their God was football, and they wanted to get kids on that football field. Because in small town America, they don't really care about education. They care about football. Let's be honest. And so I quickly figured out that my staunch behaviorist ways of sit and get would not work. And without knowing it, I flipped the classroom and implemented a flipped classroom model. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I gave the kids work instead of lecturing the kids or assigning homework. I gave the kids the reading material and said, use your class time wisely, read it, and here's some reflection pieces. I didn't know how to do projects properly at that time. I did teach them how to do research papers, but when it came time for a STAR test, which that is a whole other story in and of itself, the kids mostly had meets. And so why do I think that this was effective? It came naturally. It's a natural thing to have kids read in a classroom. It's a natural thing to have them do reflection. And because of some political maneuvers, because of some very ugly things that happened to me in my time at that school, I backed away from it because I was very young, very inexperienced at that time. And I went to another school that they claimed to want to do stuff like authentic assessments, but it tended to be just more arts and crafts, very shallow, very let's keep the kids preoccupied so we don't have to deal with any severe behavior issues. So it was the reality that so many schools find themselves in, the language of Dewey, but the reality of Thorndike, And plus, they were always concerned about the STAR test, always about the STAR test. And so it really wasn't until I moved into the project-based school system that I realized that there could be something different, that there could be something better. And that's when I realized that there really is an alternative way. And so I've been fascinated with digital learning for a while. So that's when I applied for Lamar University's Masters of Applied Digital Learning program. And that's really when my journey began in earnest. And so to say that the learning took me out of a box is a colossal understatement. Because before then, you got to think about it like this. Your learning is attached to a multiple choice test. Your learning is attached to the score you get on said multiple choice test. And so now, instead of you're being told what to learn, you are discovering learning. You are discovering new things because you're told this is the topic. Now take it and run. My professor, who I've had the privilege to sit under his mentorship, Dr. Dwayne Hrapnick, was so patient and explaining to me that the type of learning that we had been put in the American education system for centuries, it didn't really demonstrate learning. It demonstrated the lowest level of remembrance. And so every time I'd ask him, what's the requirements were for this assignment? He said, whatever it requires you to demonstrate your learning. And it was really about the third or fourth class that I began to change my way of thinking, because I had to stop attaching my learning and my growth to a score. And when I stopped attaching it to a score and my perceived natural ability, thank you, Carol Dweck, that was when I really began to grow. My question didn't change. It changed from what score did I get to how did I grow this time? What did I develop as a skill? What part of my personality changed? This way of thinking gave me a new level of confidence. And so that's when I really began to change. It was very much a combination of my past experiences and my present discovery. And so what becomes difficult is as part of the program, we were asked to find our voice, and we're asked to find ways that we can implement change in the organization that we're a part of. However, the problem is most school districts are not real keen on rapid fire change because STAR tests are at stake, money's at stake, and if you're in small town America, football's at stake. And so what you have to think about is a lot of principals and administrators and superintendents, they're afraid of change because they have a lot to lose if the change fails. Most of the time in South Texas, by the time any type of meaningful change gets there, it's already been out and about 5 to 7 years. Somebody else already tried it. Somebody else didn't like it. And so people that come in and they're like, we could possibly change this, and this. They have a nasty habit of trying to put you on a growth plan, if not outright fire you, because they have a lot to lose. And also, the ISD world, it's a good old boy system. They have friends in high places, and they know that they have friends in high places. So this is one reason why I started The Voice of the Teacher, is because my message is better suited to the airwaves, and people with the right personality can go into the school districts. Do I have the right personality? I don't know that I do. I'm not a political person. I'm tend to just say what I think. I've grown a lot in my area of presentation. I've grown a lot in how I say stuff. But there's good people that can go into a school district and they can say what it takes to really be effective in change. So plus, I've always been a lot more successful in the private sector. So my current company welcomes the attention of a podcaster because I try to keep it very positive, even when I'm offering feedback, offering criticism. And they as a private company, they have maybe the ability to change, whereas a public school cannot just change that rapidly. And that's understandable, right? And so we're actually using my innovation plan to revamp a government class right now. I was supposed to be world history at first, but we're changing a government class. And so my philosophy of learning, which was crafted at the outset of this program, has shifted to where it's not just the kids that need to learn growth mindset. Teachers need to learn growth mindset. Administrators need to learn growth mindset. People claim that they know growth mindset. If you would ask me 15 years ago if I had growth mindset, I would have said, well, sure I have growth mindset. Did you look at my test scores? And, because that tends to be what we think of when we think of growth mindset. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize I have a lot more growing to do. I have a lot more to discover. I have a longer way to go than I gave myself credit for. And coming from an environment where growth was not always encouraged, it's like a breath of fresh air once you realize, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't have to be perfect. And so that's another reason why I like the private sector. It removes the fear of growing. In the public sector, you do have the fear of growing because you have a lot to lose. But maybe if the public sector would remove that fear of growth, we wouldn't see a failing education system. And I'm not talking about just Texas. I'm talking about across the nation. And so that's why in my innovation plan, I'm still going to use COVA frameworks. And why is that? It gives choice, it gives ownership, gives voice, authenticity. That's what COVA stands for. So for students, authentic assessment is going to look like project-based learning. But there's also going to be that cross-curricular collaboration, because what works in a math class could work in a history class, and vice versa. Not exactly the same, but you take it, you collaborate, you take the principle of something, you take the spirit of something, and you inject it in there, and it becomes so much better. And so when you remove that fear and you replace that fear with choice and ownership and authenticity, teachers are going to have a choice about how they teach the standards. Because, you do have to have a universal standard to teach. And I'm sorry, it should not be a devil may care system. I don't believe in that either. But you should have a choice in how you teach that with the more authentic assessments. And students have a choice at how they prove their learning. And again, it's not a score. It's a what did I develop this time? And if they're not developing, well, then that's how you determine if you advance them or you hold them back. And so how do you go about this? How do you start this? They have to go. We would all have to do some training. We'd all have to undergo a shift in our thinking. You'd almost have to have like a culture camp that you go through, and you get people on the same page. Maybe some people would want to leave. Maybe some people would want to stay. But guess what? That's their choice. And if that's their choice, they're all the better for it. Be you. If this isn't for you, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to try it and you don't know exactly how to go about it, that's okay. Stick with us. And we're going to be so much better by the time we get through it. That's the spirit of the COVA framework, folks. It's about removing the need for control and instead giving people the freedom from fear to grow. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that's changed in me since I've started doing the COVA frameworks. It took out of me this deep-seated fear I had to grow. And so I hope this has been inspirational to someone today. I've been talking in front of a camera for about 15 minutes now. I really hope it helps somebody. I hope it really goes a long way to inspire you. If you want to know some of the resources I've used in this program, check out thevoiceoftheteacher.com. You'll see a lot of different stuff. We'll put the link in the description below. And then hit me up in the comments. Send me an email. I'd love to help you on your journey. So until then, this has been The Voice of the Teacher. Have a great day, everybody. And stay tuned for a special announcement.